Welcome to Spectrum News at 4. Coming to you live from Uyo. My name is Ofonono Joseph. A look at the top stories. Federal government implementing intervention programs to address food crisis. ECOWAS court to streamline procedures for speedy justice delivery. Plus, Cameroon's Biya wins re-election, official results show. Stay tuned for details of these stories and more in just a moment. Good afternoon. Nice to have you join us on the news at 4. We begin this afternoon from the national theme where the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Abubakar Kyari, says that the federal government has implemented humanitarian interventions and emergency responses to cushion the effect of food crisis in the country. Abubakar stated this today in Akure at the distribution of farm inputs to farmers to boost agricultural production and ensure food security. He said that the government had put in place various programs to address underlying challenges hindering the national food security objectives. According to him, the present administration has embarked on bold economic reforms designed to stimulate productive capacity, create jobs, and reduce the cost of living. The minister, who was represented by the Director of Extension in the ministry, Ayodele Olawumi, said the distribution of the input was toward achieving the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Tinubu. Away from that, 6 new states have been proposed by the Joint Committee of the Senate and House of Representatives on Constitution Review. The proposal was one of the key resolutions of the 2-day retreat co-chaired by Deputy Senate President Barry Jibrin and House of Representatives Deputy Speaker Benjamin Kalu in Lagos. The Joint Committee considered 69 bills, 55 state creation requests, 2 boundary adjustments, and 278 local government creation requests during the retreat. During the consideration of the 55 requests for state creation, the Joint Committee unanimously resolved that 6 additional states should be created. If approved, the number of states will increase from 36 to 42. A state will therefore be created in each of the 6 geopolitical zones of the Northwest, Northeast, North Central, Southwest, South-South, and Southeast. In a separate development, the president of the ECOWAS Court of Justice, Justice Ricardo Concalves, has said the regional court is taking steps to reform and streamline its judicial procedures to ensure faster and more efficient delivery of justice across the sub-region. Concalves stated this today in Niger State during the opening ceremony of the 2025 Judicial Retreat of the Community Court themed Efficiency and Effectiveness, Streamlining Processes for a Dynamic ECOWAS Court. According to him, the retreat was designed to review the functioning of the court's department, assess their collaboration with the College of Judges, and examine the implementation of previous resolutions with a view to enhancing the institution's overall performance. Meanwhile, special attention during this year's deliberations would focus on comparative judicial practices relating to summary hearings, interim measures, and other procedural matters essential to ensuring swift and fair adjudication. In another development, The National Examinations Council (NECO) has established a new examination centre in London, United Kingdom, marking a major step in its global expansion drive and commitment to educational inclusivity for Nigerians in the diaspora. Unveiling the centre during the Education Martyrs Conference in UK 2025 in London, the Registrar and Chief Executive of NECO, Professor Dantani Ibrahim Wushishi, described the new Senior School Certificate Examination (SSCE) Centre, set up in partnership with Barnfield Education Limited (BEP Education), as a strategic move to extend access to credible Nigerian examinations beyond the country's borders. Professor Wushishi, in a statement issued by the Acting Director, Information and Public Relations, NECO, Aziz Sani, said the initiative aims to provide opportunities for Nigerian students and adult learners in the UK who, for various reasons, have been unable to complete secondary education or obtain equivalent qualifications. On court matters, the detained self-acclaimed leader of the proscribed separatist group, the Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, has abandoned his earlier plan to call witnesses in his defense in his ongoing trial for alleged terrorism offenses. Recall that the court on October 24 adjourned till October 27 for Kanu to open his defense. Kanu had written the court indicating his intention to call witnesses and applied for witness summons. When the case was called on today, Kanu said he has gone through the case file and realized that there is no valid charge against him. He argued that since he is convinced that there is no valid charge against him and since he was subjected to a lawful trial, there would be no need for him to conduct any defense. Justice James Omotosho asked him to file a written address to that effect and serve the prosecution. Still on court matters, the Federal Capital Territory High Court in Maitama, Abuja today adjourned till December 1 for the hearing of a preliminary objection filed by Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan in her trial for alleged defamation of Senate President Godswill Akpabio and former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello. The trial judge, Justice Chizoba Orji, fixed the date after the prosecuting counsel, David Kaswe, informed the court that although the matter was scheduled for a hearing of the objection, the prosecution had been unable to serve its response on the defense. Kaswe, however, noted that the response had been filed with the court. Recall that Akpoti-Uduaghan was arraigned on June 19 before the court on a 3-count charge bordering on harmful imputation filed by the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice. She was further accused of making similar imputations against Bello and another against Akpabio, allegedly linking him to the death of Miss Iniobong Umoren. Akpoti-Uduaghan, however, pleaded not guilty to all the charges. Moving now to Africa, where Alassane Ouattara looked likely to win a 4th term as Ivory Coast president on Sunday, with early results suggesting a landslide victory in a poll where 2 of the main hopefuls were barred from standing. Ouattara, 83, has led the world's top cocoa producer since 2011, when the country began reasserting itself as a West African economic powerhouse. Official results from some of Ouattara's northern strongholds showed him winning upwards of 90% of the vote, with turnout close to 100%. The veteran was also ahead in traditionally pro-opposition areas in the south and parts of the economic hub Abidjan, where polling stations had been almost empty on Saturday. The Electoral Commission is set to publish results from all regions by the end of the day, with a compiled tally expected late on Sunday or early Monday. Still in Africa, Cameroon's President Paul Biya has been re-elected for an 8th term that could keep him in office until he is nearly 100, according to official results announced today by the Central African country's Constitutional Council. This year, his strongest challenge came from Issa Chiroma Bakary, a former government spokesperson and employment minister in his late 70s, who broke ranks with Biya earlier this year and mounted a campaign that drew large crowds and endorsements from a coalition of opposition parties and civic groups. On the foreign scene, Donald Trump said today that he would not run for vice president in the 2028 American election, a move some supporters suggest would allow him to skirt term limits and stay in the White House. The U.S. Constitution limits presidents to 2 terms, and Trump began his second in January. However, some of his advocates have suggested the Republican could skirt the rule by becoming vice president and then stepping back into a vacated top job. Trump, who served his initial term from 2017 to 2021, often mentions that his supporters have called for him to govern beyond his current tenure, despite the constitutional restriction. Pacific region, U.S. President Donald Trump received a royal welcome today in Japan, the latest leg of a 5-day Asia trip, which he hopes to cap with an agreement on a trade war truce with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Trump, making his longest journey abroad since taking office in January, announced a flurry of deals on trade and critical minerals with 4 Southeastern Asian nations during the first stop in Malaysia, and is set to meet Xi in South Korea on Thursday. U.S. officials said that negotiators from the world's top 2 economies hashed out a framework on Sunday for a deal to pose stepper American tariffs and Chinese rare earths export controls. However, the news sent Asian stocks soaring to record peaks. Still to come in the news. Juventus sacked manager Tudor after 7 months. Stay tuned for these stories and more in a moment. Welcome back. Many thanks for staying tuned. Now we conclude the rest of our news stories. On our business news, Dangote Refinery has announced that it is increasing its production from 650,000 barrels per day to 1.4 million barrels per day. When completed, the expansion will make the facility the largest refinery in the world, surpassing the Jamnagar refinery in India. Speaking at a press conference in Lagos on Sunday, the president of the Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, said the move reflects confidence in Nigeria's future and aligns with President Bola Tinubu's vision of making the country a global supplier of refined petroleum products. Dangote commended the federal government for its support and for implementing policies that have spurred industrial growth, including Nigeria's first policy, Naira for Crude policy, and One-Stop Shop initiative. He said these policies have revolutionized the downstream sector and encouraged private investment in local refining. Still talking business, the Organized Private Sector of Nigeria, OPSN, has rejected the proposed amendment to the Nigeria Social Insurance Trust Fund NSITF Act, describing the move by the Senate as a dangerous attempt to hijack and politicize the management of workers' social protection funds. The OPSN comprises the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN, the Nigeria Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, NASIMA, the Nigeria Employers Consultative Association, NECA, the Nigeria Association of Small and Medium Enterprises, NASME, and the Nigeria Association of Small-Scale Industrialists, NASI, acts by. It warned that the amendment threatened transparency, accountability, and the very foundation of the fund's governance structure. In a letter to the Senate President, signed by the Directors General of the 5 member organizations, the OPSN urged the Senate to immediately halt the legislative process, which has already passed second reading, insisting that the proposed changes would undermine the NSITF's tripartite structure and violate international labor standards. We move now to health, where the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, NAD, has announced plans to commence an indefinite nationwide strike starting November 1, 2025. NAD President Mohammed Suleiman disclosed this in a statement on Sunday, saying the strike directive was issued after the expiration of a 30-day ultimatum earlier given to the federal government over unresolved demands. This latest action comes after a 5-hour meeting of the association's National Executive Council, NEC, on Saturday. According to Suleiman, the decision followed the expiration of a 30-day ultimatum earlier issued to the federal government to address its demands. Still talking health, the House of Representatives has invited critical stakeholders, including the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, Standard Organization of Nigeria, Federal Ministries of Health and Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, to submit memoranda ahead of its probe into the prevalence in the use, trafficking, and regulation of illicit drugs across the country. Also invited for the submission of input or Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Group of MAN, PMG MAN PLC, International Distillers Limited and Tobacco Industry Representatives Limited and Tobacco Industry Representatives. Others include law enforcement agencies, including the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, Nigeria Police Force, Nigeria Customs Service, Nigeria Immigration Service, Nigerian Correctional Service, Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, and the Nigerian Medical Association. The Association of Psychiatrists and Nigeria Bar Association, Civil Society Network on Substance Abuse, and the National Youth Council of Nigeria against each other last season, but in his first Clasico as Real Madrid fired Madrid in front, and although Fermin Lopez leveled for the visitors at the Santiago Bernabeu, decisive. Backup player Pedri was sent off in the final stages for a second yellow card as tensions spilled over in the Spanish capital. Madrid's victory means they have won 9 of their opening occasion following their derby humbling by Atletico Madrid in September. Still in sports, Juventus have sacked manager Igor Tudor following the side's defeat by Lazio. The Croatian joined the Italian club in March as Thiago Morta's replacement, but the 43-year-old has overseen an 8-match winless run, which has left the club 8th in the Serie A table. Defeat against Lazio on Sunday was the side's 3rd consecutive loss in all competitions. A Juventus statement read, "The club thanks Igor Tudor and his entire staff for the professionalism and dedication over the past few months and wishes them all the best for their future careers." Juventus added that Massimiliano Brambilla will take charge of the side for their Serie A fixture against Udinese on Wednesday. Meanwhile, the Old Lady are 6 points behind leaders Napoli and have failed to win in their last 5 league matches. Juventus are 25th in the Champions League group stage table, having lost once and drawn twice in their opening 3 matches. Moving now to our entertainment scene, popular singer, songwriter and record producer David Adeleke, known as Davido, has said the choice of Akwa Ibom as the first state in Nigeria to host his music concert is due to the quality of facilities in the state. Speaking at a pre-concert reception hosted by Akwa Ibom State Governor Umoino and Nigerian Senate President Senator Godswill Akpabio in Uyo, Davido said that the choice of Akwa Ibom to host his first live show in Nigeria after 14 years of being on the stage was a result of the state's inherent potentials. According to him, everything about Akwa Ibom State is beautiful, adding that if all states in the country were like Akwa Ibom, he would have been comfortable touring around the whole country. The music icon commended Governor Ino for his good works in the state, especially in maintaining peace and security and for providing platforms for the youths to excel. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do ensure to follow us on all our social media handles and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, Spectrum TV Live to 10G. You have been watching Spectrum News at 4. My name is Ofonono Joseph. Good afternoon and enjoy the rest of your day.